So hello and welcome to episode 14, the latest Here United Talk podcast. As usual, I'm joined by Jordan and Kieran, but this week we have a special episode with Andrew from Stretford End Flags joining us this week. Good evening, Andrew.
Good evening.
Good evening, Jordan, Kieran.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So as always, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Here United Talk and tweet us your thoughts on what's going to be an exciting episode. There's a lot to discuss, and it's just to let you know it's going to be an extended episode with an exclusive interview with Andrew from Stretford End Flags this week. But we'll also discuss United's two results since the last episode: the 0-0 draw in Seville in the Champions League and the 2-1 win over Chelsea on Sunday. But the first part of the podcast is all going to be focused on our interview with Andrew from Stretford End Flags. So firstly, Andrew, welcome to Here United Talk. We're privileged to have you on the podcast, and we're excited to have you on, and I'm sure our listeners are too. Just to begin, would you mind telling us a little bit about Stretford End Flags and what exactly do you do?
Yeah, I will do. So Stretford End Flags is a supporters group for any Manchester United supporter to get involved in. We were initially set up back in 2005, not long after the takeover by the Glazer owners, when some of the people who had initially put some of the banners up at Old Trafford decided that they were going to be taking them down, or they were no longer going to be going to Old Trafford themselves. So at the time, there was quite a big group of about 20 of us from various different forums, people who knew each other from going to match together for years, decided that, well, let's get this part of the history and heritage of Manchester United, what the supporters were involved in, maintained. So we initially set up to get the banners back on the Stretford End. We obtained the initial banners, the original banners, which were up there. We've got all of them back up, except the ticker banner was the only one which we didn't actually get back up on the tier, which was eventually remade a few years later due to fans' demands for that. So since then, we've that's what we've been focusing on, really. We get fans' ideas from mainly off the internet, off Facebook, off Twitter, for new banner designs, whether that be for players or to commemorate certain events. And then on the back of that, we've looked at ways of improving the atmosphere and the colour within inside Old Trafford over the last few years.
Okay, and is that a full-time job? Is it a hobby? Is it something that you do part-time?
It's more of a hobby, really. There has been times where it takes a little bit more time than what it would do every day, but we're all volunteers. To be honest, we encourage more people to try and get involved and help us, particularly in terms of some of the social media aspect or developing our website, which is just under refurbishment at the moment. So any supporters who want to get involved in that aspect of helping the group, they can.
So Andrew, in terms of yourself, do you regularly attend games, home, away? Do you attend games in Europe? Or what's your involvement as a fan of United?
So as a fan, I've been season ticket holder now since probably just coming up to 25 years since I've had my season ticket. I've been going to Old Trafford since about 1984 was the first time I started going. I tend to get to most away games during the season. And a handful of sort of European away games. I get to a period of time before I had a wife and kids where I would go to every away game in Europe, but now it's just sort of pick and choosing which ones to go. But I was over in Seville last week.
Okay, and I've actually spoke about topic at the moment is the atmosphere at Old Trafford. Firstly, what are you trying to do to improve that, and what do you think are the main causes to the so-called poor atmosphere at the moment?
Well, Stretford End Flags' aim is really to try and improve the atmosphere and also, things like the colour in Old Trafford, trying to encourage more fans to take things in like their own scarves, their own flags. We've been involved in doing some of the mosaics and the murals, which you've seen, particularly the sort of Champions League games. Most people remember the Believe mosaic, which we done for the semi-final against Barcelona in 2008. We've done various stuff like that over the years for big semi-finals and European games, players' testimonials. But one of the things we've sort of focused on is trying to look at ways which we can actually get a better overall vocal atmosphere within Old Trafford. The flags are all well as good. They add a bit of colour, but they don't make the noise, and it's the noise which inspires the players on, and it's the noise which the fans get most involved in, really.
Okay, and what do you think the causes to the poor atmosphere at Old Trafford at the moment?
I've said this before when we've had conversations with various different journalists who've done articles on the atmosphere, and they've asked us for our thoughts over the years. It's not just a problem for Old Trafford. It's an atmosphere problem which is hit all of top flight football within English football, really. You go to the likes of Anfield, or you go to Newcastle, you go to Chelsea. The atmosphere issues are the same at the clubs there. And if you ask their supporters what they think are the root causes of that, you're going to get the same answers from their fans as you will do with Manchester United fans. The main issue is, since football become an all-seater stadium and we've got rid of the old-fashioned terraces, then it's reduced the areas where fans would gather and they would sit together or stand together with mates, and made it pretty much impossible for people to actually be located together who want to sing now. So the vocal areas, you look at the Stretford End, for example, where it was once a vocal terraced area, and people who knew that if they wanted to sing, they'd go onto the terraces. Then people are now spread about here, there, and everywhere in seats. They're located next to people who don't want to sing. They don't want to be standing up. They don't want to be creating an atmosphere. And that's probably been the root cause of what's caused atmosphere within UK stadia to suffer over the years.
Okay, and what are you trying to put in place to try and improve the atmosphere? Is there any kind of short-term projects, any long-term projects?
3 or 4 years ago now, when we actually put a proposal to the club saying, look, we realise that there's issues with the atmosphere. The Stretford End is always going to be probably the most vocal end within Old Trafford, but we wanted to do something to work with the Stretford End to try and improve the atmosphere at the opposite side of the stadium, at the old scoreboard end, or the East Stand, as many people may know it now. So we actually put a proposal to the club saying, look, the lower section of seats, could we make that into a vocal area? It's the cheapest section. It's where standing occurs most games now anyway. And the club were quite receptive to that. But they actually come back to us and said, well, we're actually considering moving the away supporters. They wanted to put the away supporters up into North Stand Tier 3. So there's an opportunity that the section, what we had in mind, could go into the away section as it is now at Old Trafford. So some of you may recall at that period of time, the end of the season against Aston Villa, and the Aston Villa supporters were located up in the Tier 3 of the Sir Alex Ferguson stand. And the trial went quite well. There was, the feedback they got from the police and the fire brigade, the emergency services was quite decent. But when they actually come to put that into position, they were blocked. The authority said, look, we don't want away supporters being up in that section of the ground. It's high up. It's difficult to access on a policing point of view, and also when supporters are coming out the stadium, it's going to lead to issues with supporters coming out next to each other and into the same car parks and same forecourts. So that basically put a block to that. So on the back of that, they offered us a couple of trials within the ground. So we had a trial for the Real Sociedad home game when David Moyes was in charge, and that was in the existing L stand in the existing way area. But because that area wasn't available, they then offered us the old J stand quadrant corner where the so-called singing section is located now. The trial for that went pretty well, and the club bought into it, allowing it to be put into place. But since then, it's probably not worked as it should have done, and it's not as loud as we or everyone involved would have hoped it would have been.
Okay, and I mean, I'm a Stretford End Tier 2 season ticket holder. For me, I mean, a lot of the fans around my sort of area, for me, it seems like they never kind of stop singing. But when you hear the atmosphere on the TV, or you hear other supporters around the ground or criticising the atmosphere, and like I said, I think the people around me, especially at the top of Tier 2, I mean, they do never stop singing, and they're always trying. Why do you think that's an issue? That the atmosphere isn't kind of projecting to the other areas of the ground as well?
I think one of the problems is the layout and the makeup of the stands, which don't help the acoustics at all. The best vocal area, and the reason you hear the away fans on the telly, or it gets picked up by the microphones and the press and the managers in the dugout, is that corner where the away fans are has got a very low roof above it. So the noise, which actually once it starts, the away fans start singing in there, that noise carries along the same section of roof all the way along through the south stand, and it bounces back almost off the back of the lower tier of the Stretford end, and it magnifies it. It acts as a megaphone almost in transcending that noise to the rest of the crowd. You look at where sort of the J stand section is now. There's no low roof above that. It's quite a high roof. It goes off into a vast north stand, and the volume and the noise just disappears. And I get what you're saying in terms of Stretford End Tier 2. When that Tier 2 was built for the Stretford End, it was advertised as a vocal section. The groups at the time worked with the club to put what was called Tier 2 commandos in there, who were aimed at improving the atmosphere within the Tier 2. But because of it's so high up, from my seat I sit in East Lower in the scoreboard paddock. I can see everybody up there standing, singing, clapping, but I can't hear them at the opposite end of the stadium. And the acoustics, particularly the way the roof is on the south stand, a lot of that noise just disappears out of the stadium. And I speak with fans similar to yourself who say, look, we've been up there singing all game, my voice is hoarse, I can hardly speak, but come to the pitch level, it just can't be heard. So that is one of the key things. And you may have seen a press release recently which has gone out from MUS, the Manchester United Supporters Trust, who looked at ways that saying, can we reclaim the Stretford End? Can we maybe look at ways at removing some of the family stand section, which is in Stretford End, the lower tier, and get them vocal supporters, not just from the upper tier of Stretford End Tier 2, but from other parts of the ground, get them a little bit nearer on the pitch side to see if that can actually improve the atmosphere and get the Stretford End back to what it used to be.
Yeah, and with ideas that you come up with, I'm interested to know, are the club supportive with your ideas? Do they oppose against a lot of your projects?
I think the club are very good at listening. They'll listen to what the supporters groups have to say, but they're restricted in terms of somebody having to make that decision to accommodate a section is going to take a lot of ground reconfiguration. It means people are going to have to be moved out of seats, and people get attached to the areas they're in. And this is one of the issues we had when the J stand section was put in, and they didn't want to move out the section in order to create the longer benefit of having a section which is going to improve the atmosphere. So that's one of the biggest problems the club is going to have is they're going to have to move people and forcibly move people from seats they may have been in for years. You've got the current expansion of the disability section, which is going to go across the whole of the East Lower section, which is going to impact significantly on the atmosphere from that end of the ground. But from the club's point of view, they've now got to found 3,000 spaces for supporters who've got to move to accommodate that. So the hands are tied a little bit in a way of how can they move people about with trying to upset people. But until the club or somebody makes that decision to say, well, we're going to have an overall reconfiguration of Old Trafford, the problems we keep encountering in terms of the atmosphere and the solutions we come up with probably aren't going to happen until that's made.
Okay, and the recent announcement that United fans will be allowed in L stand for the Brighton FA Cup game, was that fairly straightforward, and when did that come about?
We've not been involved in that. A lot of that has come from members of the fans forum and members of people who are actually sitting in the current J stand section. Okay. Now I think they approached the club saying, can we get more of the vocal fans together? And the club have said, well, for the Brighton game, the away supporters are going to be up in Tier 2 of East Stand. That section's free. We'll give you that opportunity to try and get vocal fans together. So there will be large numbers of the ones who, if you look at J Stand currently, when we put that section into place, there was 1,400 supporters who moved in there saying that, they want to sing every game, they want to create an atmosphere. And the rest of them are just stood up, not even making any contribution. So the guys in the J Stand section are trying to get them vocal fans into the L Stand, into the current away area, and then also top it up with people from other sections of the ground to say, well, let's get mates stood with mates and create it like it will be with an away game, which I think for as we seen when we done the trial in there for the Real Sociedad game before J Stand was put into place. It was a great night, and it was probably one of the best atmospheres we've had at Old Trafford in quite recent years. If you're taking out the bigger games, and for the Brighton game, I would imagine it will create a good atmosphere. The likes of Jose in the dugout is going to be able to hear the Manchester United supporters rather than hearing the away supporters in there. The only thing I've got a little bit of a sort of concern maybe is what's the long-term goal of it? And we're being there for one night singing and that's it, or will the impact of it be significant enough for the club to say, hang on a minute, that did make a difference to the atmosphere at Old Trafford? Maybe we can look at moving the away supporters to a different section of the ground, or maybe we can look at changing where the actual location of the current, I don't like to use the word, but singing section is now. So hopefully it will make the club sit up and take a bit and note. We don't want it just to be, well, yeah, great, we've had a great night in there singing, and that's the end of it. That's the atmosphere done for this season, really.
Yeah, totally agree with that. So how does a project, for example, like the big Munich flag, the will never die flag, come about? And for example, if you wanted to release a new flag on show, who do you contact, and how does that happen?
Again, it's difficult to get something like that into place. We had talks with Manchester United for many years saying, look, we want to put a big surfer flag in. Met with rejection from a safety point of view. People were like, well, the supporters who complain that they don't like being underneath it, they become claustrophobic. We've had the club tell us that they get complaints off people saying the flag's mucky and it's dirtied their Armani suits, which to me shouldn't be happening in a football stadium. You see the amount of horse crap what's outside Old Trafford. You don't see people traipsing through that in an Armani suit. So it's the club from a safety point of view can be quite. It can put a block on a lot of things, and that hasn't helped with the atmosphere. So eventually, after pushing them for many years, we got the go ahead for a new surfer flag, and actually Gary Neville got involved with us. He said, "Look, I've got some money from the testimonial. I'm happy to put that towards the cost of the flag if you stump up the rest of it." And we were like, "Well, it's going to cost us about £15,000 for a flag of that nature to be made." Having Gary Neville on board helped us a lot. We put designs out to supporters for, what would we want to see on the flag, and we actually asked Gary himself. And it was Gary whose idea to have the last line up with the Busby Babes for the design idea. And from Gary's point of view, he said that is an image which is used throughout the club, from the youth system through the club's offices to the first team, to basically to inspire the players to say, look, this is what you're playing for. You're playing for the history of Manchester United. You're playing for the history of the Busby Babes. So that was why we went with that design. We, from a Stretford End Flags point of view, we want to see that flag used more often. We want to see it used at the bigger games, the likes of Liverpool and Manchester City, the big European nights. But at the moment, the club have restricted it pretty much to once a year for the nearest game to the anniversary to the Munich disaster.
Okay, and is there any sort of plans in the future to get more of these type of flags at games?
Yeah, well, we're in talks currently with the club to see if we can possibly get another design which can be used maybe at the east end of the stadium, or a design which is not sort of linked directly to the Munich disaster. Something which can be a bit more freely used week in, week out by the club, rather than using it as a sort of tribute flag. So possibly the club, that may be something we're looking at. We're currently talking to the club about the Seville home game, so we want to get fans' flags into the ground. We want to use, you've probably seen for some of the European games a couple of years ago, we've used these large TIFO flags on the pitch, which we get volunteers. We usually put something out on our Twitter or our Facebook to say, look, do you want to come on the pitch and wave the flag pre-game? So it's usually waving it as the players are warming up, and then waving it, as the Champions League anthem is being played on that. So that's something which we can hopefully see for that. We will look at things like the pitch side murals, the mosaics which the fans hold up to create an image in there, and that's something which, again, we took a lot of convincing with Manchester United to get them to do that, but they've bought into the idea of that, and they've actually helped, or in most cases paid for the funding of it. You're talking again about £15,000 to do something of that nature, and it's quite a big job laying it out for 2 days to get it all ready for the fans to hold up for 1 or 2 minutes in the ground.
Yeah, and can fans get involved with Stretford End Flags? How does that go about?
Well, the best ways for doing it these days is through for the Twitter. So we've got Twitter address is SEF_MUFC, and then we've also got Stretford End Flags on Facebook. So what we do is we encourage supporters to get involved, to put their ideas forward. We have our own meetings with the club where we say, look, this is what supporters are asking for. We're currently in the process of coming up with a new banner for the Stretford. Well, it might not be on the Stretford End, but it'll be on one of the tiers within Old Trafford, So for that, we've been seeking fans' ideas for designs. We've got a bit of a short list of designs at the moment, and probably within the next week or so, we're going to have that hosted as a fans vote. We'll put it up for a week or so and say to the fans, you vote on which design you want made. We'll then seek fans' funds to get that made, and then it'll go onto the tier within Old Trafford.
Okay, and is that vote on? Will that be put on Twitter or Facebook?
Yeah, we'll make sure it's on Twitter. It'll be on Facebook, and we'll probably get something onto the official Manchester United website as well, and through Manchester United's channels to say, look, it supporters' views. And so the couple of the themes are we've got a design which is quite a good design actually, which is based on it sort of remembers the Munich tragedy, but it also remembers the anniversary of us winning the European Cup 50 years ago. So that's got one side of the banner says 1958, all those years ago a team lay in the snow, and the other side has got on it Charlton and Matt Busby, they took us to Wembley, and then 1968. So that's quite a good, for this year's anniversary, the 50th and the 60th anniversaries of the Munich and winning the European Cup. There's some designs up there for Jimmy Murphy, which has always been a popular suggestion for supporters, and it seems to have gathered more momentum over recent years as people have been more involved and aware of what Jimmy Murphy done for the club. We've got a banner design up where one of the options is for Bobby Charlton, which will go up, and then whatever gets made out of that, we'll definitely make the winning design. If not, we will make the winning design. We'll probably make the second, whatever comes second in the poll as well.
Brilliant. So just to kind of wrap up, what can we expect from Stretford End Flags in the future and also going forward?
I think one of the key things is there's quite a lot of supporters groups within Old Trafford, and getting the hardcore, the supporters who are going week in, week out, who want to make a difference to work together, not just with Stretford End Flags, but with the likes of the lads in J Stand, with the supporters from Must and some of the other groups as well. I think what the club recognises is if everybody's wanting the same thing, it makes it a little bit easier from their perspective on it. It's going to take a big decision for Manchester United to say, well, look, we need to reconfigure Old Trafford. We maybe need to move some of the executive areas about. That makes it a little bit easier because it's sort of pretty much tearing up a section of seats and making it into a complete different section and starting again from scratch. But I think that the key part is for supporters to turn up and make the voices heard, really. Everybody who goes in the ground's got the ability to sing. You can take a scarf in and add a little bit of colour. And then, you've seen it on Sunday against Chelsea when we went 2-1 up. Old Trafford come to life, for the 60 minutes prior to that. It was, all you could hear was the away fans and the sort of section of J Stand and occasionally the odd chant from the Stretford end. So I think just getting all supporters together, maybe, you look at it yourself and say, maybe do I need to move seats? Can I move from up in tier 2 down to tier 1? Would that make a difference? Because I think supporters just accept often that I've got that seat within Old Trafford. I'm going to be in for the next 20 or 30 years, and that doesn't help the atmosphere overall. You find that the section I'm in now in Scoreboard Paddock. If you go back 15, 20 years, it was probably one of the most vocal areas of Old Trafford. If you look around it now, the same faces are in there, but they're a lot older. They don't want to sing your game. Some of them don't turn up every game. They turn up for the bigger games, and I think that's issues what we've got throughout Old Trafford, really.
Yeah, and if you could kind of send one message out to our listeners and to the United fans, what would that be from yourself?
I think it'd be a case of get involved. Let yourself known on the likes of Twitter and Facebook, and when you get these supporters feedback forms from Manchester United, let it known that you're willing to move to make the atmosphere better, or you want to help with the atmosphere, or submit your ideas to the fans forum. If you go onto the official Manchester United website, anybody's ideas forward, they get debated, so it gives everybody a voice, really. So you don't have to be involved with a group direct, but you've got that opportunity of putting something in there. And it, the comments what we've seen this season from Jose Mourinho about the atmosphere, it's obviously he sees it's impacting on the team. We're all there. We all want the team to win each week. That's why we go. And the better the atmosphere is, the players respond to that. You see the response from the players. You look at the 2-2 against Burnley earlier in the season on just after Christmas. when we got that first and second goal, it was we were seeking the winner. The players were running around encouraging the supporters to get up and clap and respond and make some noise, and that's what the players want on the pitch. They want to know that they're performing for the crowd, and the crowd's making the atmosphere to help them perform.
Yeah, and just finally on United itself and the team and Jose, are you happy with the way the team are playing? Are you happy with the manager and the players?
Yeah, I'm completely happy with the manager. I don't get where some of these complaints and grumbles are coming from, really. There is sort of a rebuilding program which is going on in terms of the team. I'm not going to point out individual players, but there's certain positions where we do need a little bit more strength in depth. The team has improved on results-wise what we had last season. We brought a little bit more attacking flair in, particularly since we brought Sanchez in at Christmas, and we're currently in second position in the league. We finished sixth last season. It's an improvement. We're in the European Cup this year, which is a greater cup competition than it is from the Europa League, which we went on and won last year. So I'm quite happy with it. I think the days of fast flowing attacking football where you've got 4-4-2 and two wingers tearing up the wings have completely gone now. This attacker style of football. The European games and the big games is a lot of it's about patience. There's going to be moments in the game where you've got to sort of absorb the pressure of the opposition and hit them on the break. And if you look at the sort of results over recent years in world football, Mourinho is probably the best at actually doing that. And that's what he's trying to achieve with Manchester United now. And I think sometimes the fans just have to have that little bit more patience. That if the ball's going to be passed backwards, the end game is to get it forward. It's not just a backwards pass for the sake of it, which we often had at times under Louis van Gaal and under David Moyes. Yeah,
and we've got a big week coming up shortly. We play Liverpool, Seville and Brighton within a week, all at Old Trafford. That's really going to be a season defining week, you would say. What's your sort of expectations for the last few months of the season? Do you think we can win the FA Cup, and how far do you think we can go in Europe?
I think realistically, if you look at the trophies which are on offer and the games which are to come up, the teams left in the FA Cup, I think the FA Cup is probably the most realistic chance of silverware. For me, I'm 42 years old. The FA Cup is still one of the major trophies for myself. I'd love to win the FA Cup every year. I think it's a great day out. It's been diminished a little bit as Wembley's overused now, particularly by the likes of Spurs and for the FA Cup semi-finals. But the FA Cup to me is still a massive trophy. It creates some great away days. It creates some great atmospheres at Old Trafford. So I'd like to see us to go on and win the FA Cup this year. Europe, I think anything can happen in Europe. The way the draw pans out is always do you get that luck at a draw? There's teams in there you may want to avoid. There's teams which, on paper you think, well, they're going to be the better games. So I think Seville's going to be a tough game. Last week they attacked us quite well. De Gea's obviously made two good saves in the game. And I think they probably are dangerous. They probably will score at Old Trafford. But I think if we go out with the likes of Anthony Martial running at people, that strikes fear into the opposition anyway. And once you get through that tie, if the draw opens up for you, anything can happen in Europe. You look at when Liverpool won it in 2005. They weren't amongst the probably best 5 or 6 teams in the competition at the time. They weren't the best team on paper, and they went on and won it. So anything can happen in cup football, and in the league. I think second place would be a great achievement. But as long as we get within that top 4, I'd be happy with that. It's an improvement on what we had last year.
Yeah, and obviously City, the gap's quite big at the minute. Too big for some supporters, you would say. Second, I think I would be happy with that, and I'm sure Jordan and Kieran will be happy with that as well. But what do you think we need to do to get back level with City, to trim that gap? What do you think we're missing?
I still think we need quite a bit of investment in the team. If you look at the back 4, and not so much the one who started yesterday, but the majority of the back 4 is what we had under Sir Alex Ferguson. So it's an old back 4. We're playing 2 effective wingers really as fullbacks in Young and in Valencia. And as good as Valencia's been defensively, he still lacks a lot going forward, which to me, he's he's always been brought up as a winger, but we're now in a position where he can't beat a man, he can't put a cross in. Ashley Young isn't a defensive player. How he's ended up playing in fullbacks, and particularly as a right-sided fullback, I do not know. When we've got the likes of Luke Shaw on there, particularly Chris Smalling, who was, he was a decent defender 2 or 3 years ago, but every time he gets the ball now, he just seems to panic. We obviously need a little bit more muscle and flair in the midfield as well. So, it's a rebuilding process. We'll spend money in the summer. Man City will spend money in the summer, but I don't think come next season the gap's going to be quite as big. And I think, well, it hates me to say it, I think Liverpool are probably going to challenge quite a bit next season as well.
Yep. Jordan, Kieran, do you have any further questions?
No, that's all good. I completely agree with everything Andrew had to say. I think he's hit the nail on the head with absolutely everything, especially in how we need to improve next season.
Yeah, it's nice to hear someone who's actually involved inside the club with such positivity about next season, and what the ambition we still have this season, and what an anniversary it would be to bring the trophy home this year, 50 years after winning it at Wembley, and 60 years after the disaster. So it's been a pleasure speaking to you, mate.
Okay, yeah, thanks for your time. I think sometimes fate in football does sometimes come in, and you go back to 2008 when we won the last European Cup in Moscow.
Yeah,
it was 50 years since the Munich anniversary, and you look it back and you think, was there a little bit of fate involved in that? And you look at 1999, it was Matt's birthday, and you just start looking at them sort of things.
Two results this week. First of all,
as I said before, anything can happen with the draw. If the draw works out for you, and some of the bigger teams, or the likes of
United's next game,
Man City is a slightly better team than us at the moment, and Real Madrid, Barcelona. If they come up against each other and we get somebody like Shakhtar Donetsk or Roma or something in the next round, then it opens up to any possibility, really.
Stern performance from United. It's been a pleasure, Andrew. Thanks a lot for coming on. What did you make of the result and the performance?
All right, cheers, Andrew.
Thank you, mate.
The result was okay, I suppose. I mean, 0-0's not the end of the world, but it's quite a worrying situation if we go to Old Trafford now in the second leg and Sevilla score first. Although I suppose yesterday's result gives you a little bit of confidence in that and how we came from behind, but still, it's an okay result. It's not the end of the world, but I mean the performance was really poor. We didn't look like we were ever going to win that game. We had one shot on target in the whole match. It came from McTominay from about 25 yards. And neither side really looked like winning the game. I mean, Sevilla had 2 chances, which De Gea was outstanding for. So it was a game to forget, I think.
Yeah, much the same, really. Professional is a very positive way of describing it, and I agree. But generally, I was just surprised by how little we attacked. I've said it before. I do trust Mourinho when it comes to Europe. He's won it. He's won the competition with worse squads. He won the Europa League last year, where I believe we only conceded 1 goal in the last stages. He knows what he's doing. We have to trust him, but it is risky, and particularly the fact that Sevilla, and there's still the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, even Man City. Teams with much more pedigree still to come potentially in the next round. Should we get through? I think we really should have at least tried to get that 1 away goal, even if it was we had to concede ourselves, 1-0. We discussed that 2-1 is, by all intents and purposes, not a better result maybe than 0-0, because it'll give you that incentive to go in at Old Trafford and attack. Whereas now, even though we do have to attack, we do have to win, we concede now, we're in trouble. So questions to be asked, really.
Yeah, I mean, huge questions were asked when the starting 11 was announced, as you both know. I think it was over an hour before kick-off, and the amount of negativity I saw flooding through my Twitter timeline was, for me, ridiculously out of order. Pogba was on the bench, which was, you would say, worrying when the team was announced. But I mean, I would describe it as another Twitter meltdown, and quite frankly, I thought the outburst was ridiculous. I sent a tweet out just as it was happening, saying, you can't judge before a ball's even being kicked. You've got to wait till the 90 minutes was up, and if we'd been beaten 3-0 and Mourinho had got it wrong, then I would say fair dues. But I think it was wrong, don't you?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I didn't have any complaints about the midfield and against Sevilla. I mean, I'm happy enough with McTominay. I can't complain about Matic. He's had a few poor weeks, and then Herrera has done a job when he's been asked. Obviously, you want to see Pogba play. We got to see that after 15 minutes, I think it was, maybe less.
Yeah.
So I think the only complaints I had about the team was Chris Small, Ashley Young, and to an extent Mata, because I didn't think it was the game for Mata. Clearly, it wasn't. And then Chris Small, I just don't have much faith in. Although he put on quite a good display, I think he was caught out for the header, which Muriel had, which was, I mean, we were talking about it for days, the De Gea save. I mean, I'm quite happy with Lundorf at the minute. But I think I didn't really have many complaints about the team, so I think people just overreact because they don't see that name Pogba on the sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he did set up the team maybe with the Chelsea match in mind as well, where he probably wanted to just just give Pogba a few less minutes so that he'd be fresher for the Chelsea game. As it happened, that didn't happen. He was required more or less straight away. I totally agree with Juan Mata. He's, as much as I love Mata, I think he's a brilliant, tenacious player, great on the ball. He doesn't suit 4-3-3. But the positives were, McTominay and Matic, I think were, a very good centre field. McTominay we discussed last week, and since then, almost like he may have heard as well, the way the Chris Smalling might have heard the week before, he's played brilliantly the last two games. And considering now where unfortunately Herrera might be out for a while, there's a real vacancy there. And just as we're getting into that 4-3-3 style of play, we've seen it. It seems to be the preferred formation at the moment, and I hope that continues. And can we cope with that Herrera? Yeah, of course we can. And but with McTominay, there is a risk because he is so inexperienced. But he's taken to it well at the moment. I hope there's a vacancy that he can grasp now with Herrera's absence. And but yeah, I think generally our fans love a meltdown when there's people on the bench that they don't want to see. But we didn't lose any of the games since the last podcast. And like I said, we'll get on to Chelsea in a bit, but. We won yesterday after being behind, so I don't think we can complain too much about the side he has picked.
Yeah, and the team was clearly set up to defend. We know how Mourinho likes to play in Europe. Not sort of part of the bus, but sit deep and try and nick a goal on the break. And like you say, if you're talking about nicking a goal on the break, you don't really think of Juan Mata, to be honest. And I agree that he doesn't really fit the system, but I guess playing against opponents like Seville, that he's used to that type of Spanish football, that he knows the game. I guess that was sort of some sort of the thinking behind it. So we didn't manage to get that away goal. We had a half a chance with Lukaku, had a volley. McTominay had a half-hearted effort from about 25 yards. I think Lukaku scored an offside goal, but apart from that, we didn't threaten at all, really. But we didn't manage to concede either, of course.
Yeah, but I did expect us to hit them on the counter-attack. I think it's what we're best at. It was the same under Sir Alex Ferguson. A lot of our famous goals or stuff like that have came from the counter-attack. You think of the Ronaldo against Arsenal, you think of Ryan Giggs in that FA Cup semi-final back in 1999. And there's been a few goals like that this season, like the Arsenal game or Watford, which come to mind with Jesse Lingard. So I thought it would have happened, but it never looked like it was going to. He brought on Rashford and Anthony Martial, and I think they barely even ran past the centre circle when they came on. I didn't really see the point in the two substitutions if they weren't going to attack. I think Rashford had one chance, but that was about it.
Yeah.
But as I said earlier, we were solid. We were okay at the back. Chris Smalling put on a decent shift. Apart from that time, he was caught out. But a game to forget, I think. On to the second leg.
Yeah, I was very surprised by the centre-back partnership. I know we're a bit limited at the moment with injuries to Rojo, Bailly only just coming back into fitness, but Smalling and Lindelof, they haven't played too many games together. Smalling is our most experienced defender, but I think he trusts whoever plays with Chris that can just work alongside well with him. But the whole reason we didn't concede was down to one man. That I'm surprised we haven't talked much about it, but we're just so used to seeing it now with De Gea. He's so important. The amount of points he gets us per season, and also the amount of key saves he makes in cup competitions. It may be key to getting silverware, but he is and has been our best player over the last 3-4 seasons, and he just continues to improve. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, I thought like you said, we discussed McTominay last week. I thought he played very, very well again. He's playing like a player that's probably in his prime in the Premier League. He doesn't look out of place. De Gea made that brilliant save. I thought Lindelof played quite well again. But who stood out for you the most in terms of United's best performance on the night, if there was one?
Well, the outfield players, it had to be McTominay.
I think he's Banega well, didn't he? Yeah,
I mean he's been doing the job he's been asked of. He did it again yesterday. He's making a bit of a name for himself now. I mean, I love the guy. I said it last week. I'll say it again this week. I'll probably say it next week. But he's good. He does his job, and you can see the improvements in his game week after week. People saying he's too safe. Always the sideways passes, which is the right thing to do, and it keeps us composed in midfield. And even yesterday, you can see him with that forward pass to Lukaku, which led to the second goal, which we'll obviously get on to later. But yeah, I think he was probably our best outfield player on the pitch last week.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree. It'd be a close call between himself and Lindelof, but the ironic thing there is that it's probably two players who all these United fans moaning on Twitter probably didn't want to see on the pitch, but that just shows them. Trust in the manager. He knows what he's doing. He knows the players he's playing, and really impressive performance by McTominay and Lindelof.
Yeah, we spoke in large parts last week about what would be a good result for United and how key that away goal was. Obviously, we didn't get that away goal. We didn't lose the game, but do you think the result is okay? And are you confident ahead of the second leg? Because there's worry if Sevilla score, but for me, the way I look at it is we just need to win the game. If someone said to you, do you think you'll beat Sevilla at home in a one-off game? I would say yes. So I think I'm pretty confident. How are you guys feeling about the second leg?
I mean, the result's okay. I'll say it again. It's not the end of the world, is it? But you're going to worry if Sevilla score first at Old Trafford. I'm quite annoyed because they were beaten 5-2 at home at the weekend by Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, I seen Griezmann got a hat-trick, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. But that's just how frustrating it is. I mean, why couldn't we just go there and attack them? Because clearly they're not that great defensively, are they?
No.
As well, I think the confidence depends on how the next few games go. Palace away, I think we'll win that, but the Liverpool game's huge.
Yeah.
And I think the result in that game on the Saturday before depends on the attitude going into the Sevilla game.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an okay result. It's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but you just hit the nail on the head there, Jordan. They was battered on the weekend. They're a team that conceded so many goals in the group stage as well. So, I hope we take inspiration by their loss on the weekend and we attack as well come 3rd of March. And I don't know whether, I think we're all in agreement now that we prefer the 4-3-3. There's more fluidity in the team, but in a game where we have to attack, we have to score, because we don't want to go with penalties, and we certainly don't want them to score a goal at all. I don't know whether 4-2-3-1 might be the better starting formation, where we maybe have a bit more pedigree in attack, where we can start maybe the likes of Rashford and Lingard and Martial together with Lukaku, have it just pepper them with pace and try and run at them, try and get in behind. But a lot can happen between now and then. But I am confident that we will get through, because even though we've made it difficult for ourselves, we don't tend to lose too many at Old Trafford these days. We don't need to lose, obviously. A score draw would be to put us out, but so long as Mourinho has his defensive game on again and we just attack that little bit more, then we should be okay.
Okay, cool. We'll obviously look towards the Sevilla game closer to the time, but now Next, we'll discuss United's, you would say, massive 2-1 win over Chelsea on Sunday. United ultimately came from 1-0 down to win the game 2-1, and that's something that we've discussed quite a lot on the Here United Talk podcast, is that we do rarely win from behind under Jose, which is something we're not quite used to. But we did. We managed to come from 1-0 down and beat the champions, the current Premier League champions. What was your take on United's win over Chelsea, guys?
Yeah, fantastic result, and like you said there, great statement in the sense that we did go 1-0 down. We didn't play very well first half. We did manage to get the equaliser before half time, which was really key, absolutely, and then just came out second half wanting to get more. I think Chelsea would have gone to Old Trafford. They would have taken a draw, and they were drawn at half time, even though they were winning. And I think they just, I wouldn't say they sat back, but they had their chances. Absolutely, we made it a bit easy for them in giving the ball away quite a bit in the second half. But we just, it was a brilliant goal, great pass by McTominay, Lukaku, who was absolutely superb all game, and then the guy who just continues to impress us throughout the season. He did it off the bench this time, Jesse, and what a key goal that was. So yeah, fantastic result. Performance, it was good. But like I said, I think it's just a great statement that we can win from coming behind, even if it is against a big team, and a big game for Lukaku as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's more about the reaction rather than the performance. Because we've got so few wins under Mourinho after coming from behind, it was good to see that yesterday, especially against Mourinho's old club and a team that we've been rivaled with for so many years now. I didn't think the first half was good. I think when Chelsea went 1-0 up, it wasn't really enough for them. I thought they could have had a couple others. Morata obviously hit the bar. But we reacted well. We got that first goal. It was a must-win game after Liverpool's result and Tottenham's late one at Selhurst Park. So, yeah, you have to be very happy, I think, after that yesterday.
And yeah, we discussed last week about how we have to cement that second position, and that's what we're playing for. And the result yesterday was a massive step towards that. It really was a must-win for United, and to go back above Liverpool was important, but to go 6 points clear of Chelsea was huge for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There are 4 teams fighting for those second, third and fourth spots, and we really need to try and get a bit of breathing space between 5th place, and a loss yesterday just would have really thrown everyone into the mix. We'd have been behind Liverpool, so it's great that Chelsea are now a clear 2 wins behind us and a much worse goal difference as well. So yeah, it again just emphasised the importance and how great it was that we did come back, and how it did have a really positive reaction after going behind, because Chelsea now got a lot of work to do now just to get into the top 4 in general, really, let alone second place.
Yeah, there's a good buzz off it, I think. Kieran said it's a huge statement what we made, being able to react like that, and Lukaku having the game that he had after all the criticism. I think that's one of the most important parts of it, and I think as well, but a lot of people haven't been talking about Pogba. Pogba was really good yesterday. Chelsea had that midfield of Drinkwater and Kante, and N'Golo Kante was chasing shadows all game.
Yeah.
Well, not all game, but once we reacted, once we got that first goal, I think our midfield just took control, and there was no stopping them. McTominay was outstanding again. Nemanja Matic, arguably his best game in a United shirt, maybe. I think he was probably the player who was consistent all game.
Yep.
Maybe Lindelof as well. I thought Lindelof was brilliant. He was a real leader at the back, and I think he's starting to show that bit of consistency. I think he's good in certain situations defensively, but I think that's one area he sort of needs to improve on. But I think you can see the leadership qualities he has there, and I think one thing I'm really looking forward to is the partnership between him and Eric Bailly, if we get to see that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I really like Eric Bailly. For me, our best defender, clearly our best defender. But I think, as I've said many times before, he brought in Eric Bailly, he brought in Lindelof, so his long-term vision is obviously to play those 2 players, you would have thought. So now why don't we see that partnership? Lindelof's came into the team. we kept 2 clean sheets, and then we conceded against Chelsea, but he had a very good game. Eric Bailly's come back from injury, so I think in the next few weeks, especially as we come towards that big week against Liverpool, Seville and Brighton, for me I would have those two as two in the centre of defence. In terms of the midfield, I totally agree. I thought it worked very, very well. I thought Matic was absolutely outstanding. Even though I actually thought he was quite poor in Seville, I was starting to think he was kind of overheated. He'd played a lot of games over Christmas, and I thought his season was going to kind of dwindle out. But I thought he was brilliant on Sunday against his former club. That may have been a bit of extra motivation to him, but I thought he was very, very good. And I agree. I think Pogba was very quiet in the first half, but I think the second half he really, really came into the game on the left side of the midfield three, and he was driving forward with the ball. He was always in the right position when we broke. He was bursting past Kante, and he was really making things happen. And I think the second half really showed his qualities, and I hope he can stay in that position, because I think Scott McTominay has really, really cemented his place. Well, not cemented, but he's really laid down the marker. And if he can stay with Matic kind of sitting deeper, I think it really will let Pogba express himself more. And I think that's where we'll really start to see the benefits in the last few months of the season. And as we've been mentioning countless times on the podcast in recent weeks, we moaned a bit about the 4-2-3-1. We screamed for 4-3-3. We got 4-3-3. So I guess on Sunday it was sort of a diamond front three. It wasn't quite a 4-3-3 with a right winger and a left winger. It was sort of Martial with Lukaku, and Sanchez was kind of behind. But the three in midfield was clear to see. And what did you make of the system at the weekend? And at times, I guess we proved how effective it can be, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, where was Eden Hazard all game? We talk about 4-3 from attacking perspective, but defensively, I thought McTominay, just considering his lack of experience, was fantastic. He didn't let him out of his sights all game. As Jordan said there, the Kante didn't have the best game either, because we matched them in midfield with by having the three, and particularly in the second half, managed to get forward a lot more. And I don't think Sanchez had the best game, which is a shame to see, because these are the games where we really want our best players to step up. But Lukaku did, fortunately, and interesting how you mentioned that it wasn't quite the 4-3 we expect, but more with Sanchez just behind, and in doing so, he didn't really have a good game. I mean, I share your thoughts, Jordan, in the sense that I think both of you actually have mentioned how we want Sanchez on the right of the 4-3-3, and we haven't really seen that yet. We've only seen him on the left and the central, and I would like to see him on the right with one of Rashford or Martial on the left. Maybe even Jesse Lingard, because we can't forget him anytime soon. So, no, happy with the system. We've been crying it out for a while now, and it's starting to become effective, especially yesterday as we came back from it as well. So it's starting to look good now.
Yeah, it works well, that formation, defensively and offensively. Like if it's the 4-3-3 or the 4-3-1-2, which we seemed to transition to yesterday, I'm a big fan of the 4-3-1-2. I think Sanchez didn't have that influence he would like yesterday, but he was good for the first goal. He almost had an assist with Lukaku's bicycle kick.
Yep. He should have scored.
He should have scored. But I think as well, what Mourinho has now is a really, really bad or good, in a sense, dilemma in terms of who he plays in that front three, because Martial has been brilliant. I thought he was really good yesterday. Set up the goal. And in the first half, the first hour, created most of our chances. I think Jesse Lingard, how can you drop him? The work rate he has, and the goals he's been scoring is something that none of us expected. So it's a real dilemma for Mourinho. Marcus Rashford can't be forgotten about. He's one of the biggest talents in our squad as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. We don't need to go and buy an attacker in the summer. I saw it was on Sky Sports today. I don't think there was much of a reaction to it, but we're interested in Robert Lewandowski. It sort of just came out of nowhere, us and Chelsea. but we'll see how it goes. I think the midfield was solid yesterday, and I'm happy enough with the change in formation that we've seen.
Yeah, and once again, I thought Scott McTominay was very good. We discussed him as a key topic last week, and I think we were right to as well, because at the time he was sort of, even last week he was kind of, he's split with the fans' opinion, but I think this week he's proved a lot, and we discussed how he would fit into the side. But a very, very good performance against Sevilla and a very good performance against Chelsea. What did you both make of Scott's performance?
Yeah, absolutely mirroring what you said there. He's doing all the right things to get that fan divide, the right way, into a positive reaction, and he was fantastic. He considering Chelsea, like I said last week, are the team that have beaten us more times than any other in the Premier League. They're probably the biggest bogey side, and to deal with Hazard the way he did, I thought was just fantastic. And he wasn't phased at all, and he's got the characteristics, and he's now starting to get the performances and the consistency to become a United first team regular. So fantastic forms from him, and good on the lad.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could point a finger at him for the first goal, but that's something that he can learn from. He's 21. It would remind you of Carrick, the way he floats about in that midfield, but he's a lot more physical. I think he's not afraid to get stuck in, and he's so impressive. I don't really see why our fans had or still have a problem with him, but he's made a real statement yesterday with the way he handled Hazard, almost identical to Herrera last season. I don't think he was as tight as Herrera was, but Hazard was still ineffective and couldn't do much all game.
I think the fans who have the issue with him are the same ones who reacted in the way they did to the lineup against Seville. The ones who, as Andrew mentioned, don't appreciate patience, don't appreciate maybe how the game's changed. Maybe the safe and secure players. It's fans I just don't think appreciate that it's a team of 11 and not 11 individuals, and someone who fits into a system, the way the manager wants him. So we know, we're aware of his qualities and his great abilities and what he brings to the squad, and we've seen that in the last couple of games. So there's no doubt we've got a great player from our academy, making a name for himself now.
Yeah, totally agree. Again, I think it's quite a common theme, Romelu Lukaku, but I think after yesterday we've got to mention him, and again he's made it onto the front cover of the episode art. He's featured the most out of any player this season on the Here United Talk episode cover, but that's because of his performance, and I think he was brilliant yesterday. For me, again, he proved how good he can be, and I think a lot of people I know have criticised Lukaku this season, saying he's not good enough and he's a donkey and all this sort of stuff. But I think yesterday he proved how good he can be, and he certainly proved a lot of doubters wrong, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. As well as scoring all these goals this season, he's also, I think that was his 6th assist this season, which is only second behind Pogba.
Yeah. So
he does a lot more than score goals, and I think fans again just don't appreciate just how much he brings to his all-round game. His hold at play, his finishing. There's questions about his first touch, but you can't be the perfect player. And it was such a good performance from him yesterday. And, I'm really pleased that he has proved his doubters wrong, that he can do it against the big teams. And Chelsea is a former club of his. I'm sure that meant a lot to him as well. Getting that equaliser and getting the assist for the winner. So we're starting to see see a bit more now of how much that we paid for him. 75 million, and I think most of the rap he's had this season has been totally uncalled for and just really sort of not fair, really. And yes, there was a big statement for him that he is, he can be world class, and we've got a good player up front who can do more than score goals.
Yeah, I totally agree. Why do people complain about him? I mean, I've been at games, and people are calling him lazy, saying that he doesn't run enough. And we had the Ibrahimovic up front last season, and these people were worshipping Ibrahimovic.
Yeah. Which
I do not understand at all, because Lukaku is in my opinion, had a better season. He hasn't matched his goal tally yet, but you can see
he will do though.
Lukaku stepping up. He's done it in the big game now. Probably no better team to do it against, it being his former side, but he's probably the best crosser of the ball in our team, isn't he?
Yeah, probably. I mean, you would argue Ashley Young, but I mean, even at times, he's not the best.
I mean, Lukaku's link-up play has improved so much. His passing's been brilliant, and the crosses he's put in this season at times have been brilliant. So, a brilliant signing, and he's starting to prove his worth, I think.
It was interesting yesterday in I think it was Lukaku or Lingard's post-match interview, and I think it was Lukaku, and he said to Jesse before the game, get into that box, get into that area, because I will find you. So, he's got that sense of confidence in his ability now. Earlier in the season, I think it was around Christmas time, when we lost to City, and he kind of made a couple of mistakes. He looked quite low on confidence, but in the past few weeks, I think we've definitely seen the Lukaku that we want, and the Lukaku that we got. I mean, at Huddersfield, he scored 2 great goals on the break, and he scored a great goal yesterday, and got the assist as well. And as I mentioned to you guys before we actually started recording, the run at the end of the game when he burst past 3 or 4 Chelsea defenders and got the shot away, I think that was in the Stretford end, that was allowed as cheers we heard when we scored a goal. Yeah,
I mean, it was some run, wasn't it? It's just a glimpse of what he's all about. Something that we need to see more of. We saw it at Huddersfield. The power he has, he's so strong, so physical. So there's a lot more to come. He's starting to get that confidence back. It's coming.
I'd say we're in the last stage of the season now. He's scored a lot of goals, and he's heard the critics. He's heard what it can be like, when you get on the wrong side of the fans, and I think he's doing everything he can now just to not have that bad rap again. He has had 1 or 2 bad performances, particularly City at home, where he was terrible. But he's really put that to bed now, and like I say, I think we are reaping the awards now of a great young player, and he might also be key as well as De Gea in goal. He also may be key to any silverware we might get this season, because he is, he's scoring the goals and providing the assists as well. So he's doing everything he possibly can to drive us to more silverware.
Yeah. So a very important win for United. At the beginning of a huge make or break sort of couple of weeks. I was saying to the guys, we beat Chelsea. We've got a big game at Crystal Palace, and then it really is a huge week with Liverpool at home, Seville away, and then Brighton in the FA Cup quarter final. So 3 big games, 3 different competitions, and that week is really going to be season defining for sure. But a good win, and it's a really important win that hopefully will give us some confidence and some momentum going into the next few weeks. So the next game, United travel to Crystal Palace on Monday evening to take on a struggling Crystal Palace side, I would say at the moment. 8 days from the Chelsea game, we don't play them to Monday night, so I think it's a bit of the team will be fresh and they'll have a nice sort of break. I noticed that I think Lingard and a couple of the other players have gone away today. I think Lingard's gone to Milan and a couple of others have gone away, so Jose's clearly given them a few days off following the Chelsea win. So the team should be fairly fresh, and the mood should be good ahead of this one. What are you guys expecting ahead of Palace?
I'm expecting a tough game. We saw how well they played defensively yesterday, and how good Wayne Hennessy sort of was. I mean, he's not the best goalkeeper, but he had a really good game. And that's usually what we see with United. We see them coming up against a lower league team, and this goalkeeper becoming David De Gea, I suppose you could say.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough. I'm not expecting many goals. Maybe a similar game to last season. It was quite an entertaining game, the way from home and the way we won it late on. You could nearly expect the same next week. It was the same with Spurs yesterday. A late goal from Harry Kane. Hopefully it's a late goal from Lukaku next week. But yeah, it'll be a tough one.
Yeah, absolutely. They had a terrible start to the season, but are now sort of recovered a little bit from that, and they're still in a relegation dogfight. They're just going to have to fight and scrape for every point available. And when a big team like United comes at home, they'll probably will try and sit back and try and get play for the points like they did yesterday. As Jordan said, resistance was broken eventually yesterday in stoppage time, but. I like to think we don't have Harry Kane, but I think we generally do have a lot more attacking pedigree than Spurs. And if we can just learn from how they played against Spurs and how difficult it was for Spurs to get the victory, then again we should just try and use that to our advantage and just attack as best as we can. Play with play with maybe two wide men this time rather than having the front three. Just try and get that goal before half time. I think. The minute we go ahead, that should be okay. They should be playing safe from there. I don't think they'd come back from that. They have won most of the games this season by scoring first and got most of the points by taking the lead. So, it'll be tough, but we really should be beating Palace away. No disrespect.
Yeah. And with the Chelsea win now in the bag, as I mentioned, the team should not flowing with confidence, but they should have a big boost following the Chelsea win after the disappointing performances at Spurs and Newcastle. But since then we've beat Huddersfield, a good draw in Seville, one would say, and we've beat Chelsea. So things are certainly heading back in the right direction, aren't they?
Yeah, good bit of momentum. I think that win yesterday, although the performance wasn't as that good, amazing. It was good. It was a brilliant reaction, brilliant second half. The way that we did it will boost confidence a lot there. I think it's huge for the coming weeks because we've got so many big games. We need to cement that second place, and we've got two opportunities of silverware, one realistic opportunity. So it's a huge result.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said there, had some disappointing performances at the start of this year with Spurs and Newcastle. It also emphasised the importance of going to Palace next week to win, because I would not like to enter that that week of Liverpool Seville on the back of a loss or a draw. So we're heading in the right direction. Confidence is high, performances have been good, but we just need to continue that now. And it's not just about the game of Liverpool Seville; it's about Palace as well. We don't want that to confidence to drop and form to drop heading into that D-Day week.
Yeah, and in terms of the game, what are you expecting from Palace? Because, they started the season terribly. I think they lost the first 7 games. I don't think they scored in the first 7 games. I think it was the worst start in Premier League history. They brought in Woy, who got them well out of it, you would say, who got them out of trouble, and I think he nearly got them up to mid-table at one point. And it was kind of all the stuff's been going through Zaha, really, and now they've lost him to injury. And I think I've seen some sort of stat where they haven't won a game without Zaha for I think it was over a year or something like that. Anyway, but they're right back in the relegation mix now too.
Yeah, I mean, Zaha's obviously a big loss. He's a talented player. I think it was his attitude cost himself at United. So he's become a good talent. I think he's still able to be playing for us. I think he would have been perfect for us this season at times.
Yeah.
I feel like Spurs could be the move for him, but they don't have him, so I don't really see much point in talking about him now. I think Palace are going to give us a tough game, but I think we'll come out on top in the end. But I'm not really sure who we need to look out for Palace, because there's no real proper danger man, is there? I mean,
no.
The height of Benteke maybe, but we can deal with that. I think
he's not what he was. Yeah.
So I don't think we need to worry defensively. I think it's about trying to score.
Yeah.
But we should do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. They, as you saw yesterday, they're I think the spine of the points season has come from keeping clean sheets and conceding as little as possible. They didn't score in the first 7 games, but they haven't scored too many since, and they've got their best player not available now. I do rate Andros Townsend. I thought he was unlucky at Spurs not to sort of make it there, and he poses a similar threat to Zaha. He's certainly not as good a player, but he's quick and he's good on the ball. He likes to drive forward. He likes to run sideways. But I think generally we need to go there and try and get a goal in the first half, and then really should be plain sailing from there. But again, we don't want to be complacent. Although Benteke is not the player he was, I don't think he's been the same player since he left Villa. Personally, I don't think his career at Liverpool was awful, in all fairness. But we've still got to be respective of the qualities he once had and still does have in his locker, I guess. So we just got to be careful. Just not be too complacent.
Yeah, and how do you think we should line up on Monday night? And what team do you expect Mourinho to play?
I think we'll see a couple changes. I think I see a team with a similar shape as the 4-3-1-2. I think he'll go with De Gea, Valencia, Bailly, Smalling, and Shaw, and have the same midfield three: McTominay, Matic, Pogba, with Lingard behind Sanchez and Lukaku.
Yeah, I think much the same, really. I think playing Luke Shaw will be more hope than expectation. I don't know what he's done recently to be phased out of the team. Like you said, this is the first fixture in 8 days where if he wants to give Luke Shaw a bit of a rest and keep, not starting the last few games, and having 8 days since the last game, then surely now would be the time to get him back in. No disrespect to Ashley Young, but Luke Shaw has been, besides Jesse Lingard, probably the most impressive player this season. The way he's come back from his critics and injury, from the manager more than ever. So I'd like to see Shaw back. Eric Bailly is now clearly injury free, so I think it would be a good game for him to start. Definitely McTominay, because we can't drop him now after the great forms he's putting against Chelsea and Seville, particularly now with Herrera injured. I think Jesse Lingard came on and scored the winner. Maybe be a chance for him to come back in. So have him maybe instead of Martial. I would say I'd be happy with Martial or Sanchez playing, but I think Lingard deserves to start after winning the game for us yesterday. So similar to what Jordan said there, I think, but definitely bring Lingard back in, bring Shaw in, keep McTominay. Yeah,
I think much the same for me. I think the key one for me is I think Bailly's got to come back into the side with big games against Liverpool, Seville. He's really got to get 90 minutes under his belt before those 2 games, and Crystal Palace down there struggling for confidence is surely the right game to bring him back, especially against someone like Benteke. I think Bailly would be a good defender to put on him, so I think Bailly's got to come back in for me. I agree that Luke Shaw's got to come back. I think, especially yesterday, we're getting exposed a lot down the left-hand side from Willian. And for me, a lot of it comes through Ashley Young. And I've noticed it quite a lot of times this season at Old Trafford, because when teams are attacking the Stretford end with the away team, it always seems that the opposition attacks are coming down our left-hand side. So for me, I think Shaw's got to come back, and I think ahead of those 2 games, I would like to think he would play in them as well. But I think in the bigger games this season, Mourinho has tended to go with Young. But I'd have Shaw back in. I'd keep the midfield 3, and you've got to start Lukaku, you've got to start Sanchez. So from there, it's one of Lingard, and I agree with Kieran, he should probably play one of Lingard, Rashford, Martial, or Mata. But I think I'd be happy with any of them at this point. But I'd like to see Lingard or Rashford play, actually. So finally, predictions, guys. Do you think we'll win at Palace?
Yeah. I'm going to say 1 or 2-0, and I think Lukaku will get one.
Okay.
I'll go 2-0.
Yeah. I think I'm in agreement with 2-0. I think that seems a fairly likely scoreline, actually. Yeah, I'll go 2-0 as well. So probably the first week that we've all predicted us to win. I think put that one on the record. But
we're certainly capable of winning by 3 or 4, as we've shown in the previous seasons. But I think when it's getting to these key games now, with the Champions League, Liverpool coming up, FA Cup, I think he's got an eye on the defence as well, more than ever, rather than going all out attack. So
yeah, okay. So I'd like to thank everyone and you for listening to the episode. Please remember to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Here United Talk, and get in touch with myself, Andrew from Stretford End Flags, Jordan and Kieran, and give us your thoughts on this week's extended episode. It's of course longer than normal, but I think it was great to get someone different on and get a different perspective from a guy that's involved inside United, from Andrew. So again, I'd like to thank Andrew for coming on. And as always, if you would like to donate to Hear United Talk and get involved, please see our Twitter account for the link, or get in touch with ourselves, and we'll gladly send you that over. So we'll be back at the same time next week to discuss the performance at Crystal Palace and look ahead to the all-important clash with Liverpool at Old Trafford next Saturday. So again, I'd like to thank Andrew, Jordan, Kieran. It's been a pleasure as always.
Yep. Good show. Thanks, guys.
Yep. And thanks everyone again for listening, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.